Hello friends, welcome to Data Pandit. Today we are going to talk about XML processing in AI. So, mm, as you all understand with respect to XML, so we work in heterogeneous data structures. So, in multiple projects, we receive different types of data formats um, like Excel, CSV, TSV, or maybe a mainframe data sets or data from some different databases, right? So among these, there is an uh, format, data structure format, well defined. This is called an XML, extensive markup language. So this was an evolved definite data structure, and it is used for storing and transporting the data and maybe restructuring the data. Uh, so it becomes popular when internet technologies become popular. So it is an understandable by different technologies, right? So and it is in a well-defined format basically. So there will be a standard structure, right? So the tags, the different elements within that, the parent element, child element, right? The root element, and the attributes and all other things. So that you can understand from some other sources. But how we are going to process and how Abinitio integrates, or you know how what are the different things which we have in Abinitio, what are the different components and what are the utilities, so that Abinitio can understand this XML and try to translate into the native format, and then we have a different other multiple components. They can be processed further the data. Once the XML data comes into the native format, I mean the DML described format, then it's easy to process those data, enrich those data, and transmit or uh, transmit those data, easily, or we can populate the data into the target structure, required target structure. So with respect to that, so there are two things when XML, when we talk about XML in Ab initio, like first we need to understand the XML. This is one thing, meaning we read the data, XML data, and we try to translate into the native format, and then we can use as we desire, as we process any other data sets. This is one thing, first of all. Okay, second thing is multiple downstream process or multiple third party processes which requires the data in the form of XML from ETL layer. So ETL layer, we use, I mean the Ab initio. So Ab initio process or Ab initio projects needs to produce the data in the format of XML, so that the downstream can read those data, and uh, they can transmit the data, or maybe they can use the XML data in their system. So we to end, we have to read the data, XML data, and try to load in our system, or we need to produce the data in the XML format so that our users can understand those data, or they can use their data into their system. These are the two front use cases. So now, how to first of all, we are going to understand how to read the data, XML data basically. So first of all, we need to parse the data. So XML, as you know, let's try to see one of the example how XML data looks like. So I have a book catalog. Okay, so this is the XML format. So this is like, as you understand, or you might have seen those kind of data in your academics, or maybe in your experience, right? So these are the, we have a root element, right? And then there is a child element, you can say, and then there is an uh, you know uh, another elements within the elements, and like that, right? So like we have a book ID, and then within the book we have an author, title, genre, price, publishing date, description, so on. So there are multiple books within this catalog. So while looking at this data, I mean, it's not a kind of, it's a human readable, but not a kind of well-defined view basically. So we can use some kind of, XML online viewer. So we can see this data. Okay. So if I see this data in the viewer, so in the tree structure basically, so this is the catalog, is a full uh, base element, I could say. So within the catalog there are multiple books, right? So there are kind of, these are the number of books basically. So within that, those books, there are other elements like author. So it's a singular elements basically. Within author we don't have anything, within title we don't have anything, right? And we can have other elements within the book. Let's say I have an address. Okay. Address. So, and then I can have other attributes within the address. Let's say, street number, zip code, those kind of things within that. Let's say I I have an author, let's say. So if currently we have only a single author, right? So if there are two authors for this particular book, so I can have another, you know, element within the element authors, I would say, and then within authors I could have, author number one, author number two, like that. So so like that, there will be a, tree type of structure, I should say, within the XML, right? So this data we need to read in, or using our XML using our Abinitio technology, and try to process these data as we process any other type of data set. Like, so let's hook up to the things. What are the different steps we are going to do as part of reading the XML data? So first of all, there is something called XML schema, .xsd file, so which describes the entire XML record basically. So there is an so whenever we receive the XML data, right? So we can approach the source system that what is the schema definition for that particular XML. So they can provide this XSD file, .xsd file, and we can use that XSD file to generate the particular DML using our utilities, right? And second thing is, other they can give a sample XML file like that is called XML exemplar. So the thing is, like, we mostly try to ask for XSD file which will have all the elements within that, right? But if we have such kind of XML document, sample XML record, or sample XML file, that also can be used for our utilities to translate, to create the DML, and then, so, but it make sure that it has full XML elements. So it should not be missing elements, like sometimes sometimes the XML record doesn't describe fully the future XML records, in the sense of it should contain it should have a full set of elements basically. So that's one, that's we need to make sure it, right? So second thing is, once we receive the XSD file or .xml file, right, the sample XML file, we would be using that XML to create the DML, so that we can generate. So to read the data in our Abinitio system, we need a data manipulation language. So XML, from XML XSD or exemplar, we need to generate the DML. So there is an XML to DML utility. Okay, XML to DML, there is a command basically. You can use the command line to create the. So this will be using this XSD file or .xml file as an input in this XML to DML command. Okay, or XML to DML utility, I should say, to generate the DML. This is the first, this is the one way of generating the DML. Second, if we don't understand, so the XML to DML will be asking for multiple, like, what is the format character, what is the character set, right? What is the base element, and the name of the XSD file, and other options we will have in XML to DML. So that explicitly specify. Otherwise, it will be generating in the default format, the DML, right? Second thing is, like, if we do, so if we are beginners, like, we can use the import XML dialog using the GDE components port tab. So if you go to whenever we receive the data, so the component which is, let's say we are reading the data using the XML split. So go to the XML split, go to the output port, and then what you can do is, you need to go to the import XML dialog, okay? And I'll show you how it happens. I'll take the example of it and I'll show you, okay? So we'll go to the detail actually. So let's finish these points basically in first of all. So you need to either use the dialog, import XML dialog, or use the XML to DML utility to generate the DML. Second is read the XML. So which components you are going to use, we are going to see. You will see records and vector structure. After reading the XML, the output, of that XML, particular XML component, you can see the data in the form of records and vectors, right? So we have seen, right? So this is the base element. Book is a base element, and then there is an, different element within that. Okay, author, title. So these kind of this is basically it's a record, right? If you recall the record structure, so we have a book record, we have an author inside it, we have a book ID, okay, we have a title, we have a genre, price, so these are the different you know items in that book record. Okay, within that, if any other record is there, we have a a hierarchical record structure, right? So we have record within record. So if we have let's say we have an ISO, right, authors, so then there is a record within the record. Okay, so that kind of hierarchical view we can see after reading the data using that DML. Okay, and then there is an then uh, the fourth part is expand and normalize. So once we read the data in the form of native format, DML format, we can use as we want, right? If we have a vectored structure and we want to normalize the data, we can normalize it, or we can use the reformat to translate those or enrich those elements for the downstream processing, right? Or finally we can apply different AI component to solve the use case. Maybe we can output the data, or maybe we can do the roll up and join, etc., etc. Okay, so these are the four steps. So if we look at the structure of our graph to read everything and process the data is, let's let's go to here. So I have produced this structure, like, so once you receive the access once you create the DML, right? So we will have an input file, let's say, and then we are going to read that input file using the input file in the DML format of this input file, let's say string n. We are reading the records of XML file. We will have XML path in input file, okay, data path, and then we are reading as an record one by one. Then that record will be read by XML split component. Okay, so I was so this input port DML also would be string backslash n, right? So every record is a one string, right? As a string we are reading, and then we are supplying that record into the XML split component. So there are parameters. So by default, so if you don't configure also, but if you need a specific processing while reading, that also there are some parameters you can configure those. Otherwise, and as a beginner, you may not be. So these comes with the default structure, default settings basically. So you may not be needing those to alter it basically. So what it will be happening is there will be a the parser, what should be the parser, what should be the base element and character set and so on. These kind of parameters it will be have. So in output port, what you can do is you go to the output port and then you click on the edit port, and then you go to the file section and you import the XSD, or there is a dialog called import XML. So you click on the import XML, so then there will be a dialog will be appearing. So like if you look at the dialog, so this, so before that what I have done is, let's say this XML we are going to read. So we have received so I would be using one exemplar file I have received. So this is the exemplar file. Okay, so I have a catalog list. Okay, so this is the element. Okay, and then within that I have a book ID, different books actually. So I have taken this example, like, so similar way I have an example. Actually I have taken this example. Okay, so I have books. Okay, and then again I said like author address, right? So if you have multiple authors, so author sorry, if I have an author address also, so we can specify like this, right? Author address within the record, within the record. So that kind of structure I have taken. So right, so this is my exemplar file, AI serial book. I would be placing this file in somewhere AI serial XML file, let's say. And then so so use the import XML dialog. So when you click on the import XML dialog, so this kind of view you will be seeing. So right, so there will be up in here somewhere upper, you will have a path. You need to load that XML. Once you click on the import XML, so you will have a, you know, a browser actually. So you can browse your .xml or .xsd. So once you browse it, it will be loading this xsd or exemplar file, and you will see this kind of structure. Okay, so and here there will be another tools, lot of options over here in this side. So you can specify the base element, you can specify the other attributes, like what should be the character format and other options also. You go to the option, there is a button called options. You will have multiple options there, but the fundamental thing is you need to select the whatever elements you need in your you want to read. Then those elements you need to specify. You can click on those elements. So I have taken like book I need to read within book, because this is an there are multiple books, right? One to n. So if you see that there will be multiple, so book is getting repeated. So there are a lot of books in the catalog list. So this is the base element. So I have chosen this base element. This will be highlighted actually. If you specify, if you click here and you click on the base element, so this becomes your base element, and then you need to select whatever columns you are going to see, you want to generate as a DML. So right, so I have selected everything in within author. If I don't want to select zip, you deselect this zip. So zip will not be appearing in your DML, and you will not be reading that using this DML, right? So once you do that, so you click on OK, and then there will be a DML generated. Okay, so something like this will be generated. So like I said, right, if I select this book as a base element and these all elements, so this DML will be generating. So this is a type simple DML file. This, let's say, book catalog.dml, right? I have named it, and then you have a top element like XML document T. So this will be a standard format basically. It's auto-generated DML, right? So you don't. So see, this is file is automatically generated by XML2. So this dialog in turn will be calling your XML-to-DML utility. Okay, depending upon the options and parameters options you have selected in this side, or whatever elements you have selected. So this will generate. So this is your complete that command basically, if you want to see. Okay, so now if you look at this DML carefully, so I need to zoom it. So this is your top element XML doc T. Okay, within that there is a sequence number. So sequence number like 1. Okay, for the catalog list there will be a sequence number 1. Okay, and there is a book T. Book T is basically it is in a record format. Basically, if you look at the book T, so this is a type book T and this is the record, right? Within that record there are multiple elements, and then there is another record, author address. So this author address is again described like this. There is a string, and right. So if you want, I think I did not select the UTF format, otherwise there will be a UTF. Okay, UTF string \0. So these are the, so this last element is the description of the all this, you know, this is a, what is the characteristic and what are the XML fields. So this is a partly actually, so there will be a description of these elements. So you don't have to worry about this. So you, because it's a standard XML format, so it will be coming, right. So what are the compatibility, what is the version of the XML, you know, what are the best element basically. So catalog list is the best element, right. So within catalog list there will be book is the best element, right. So these kind of things they are going to specify as part of this XML DML. So once you write this DML, so we'll switch on to the this graph like structure. So once you create this DML over here, and then so when you read the data, so whenever the data comes out from this output port, right? So you will see the data like this. Let me check here. So you will see the data like this. You will have a sequence number, book as a record. Okay, book as a record. Okay, when you try to, you know, view the data, book as a record, and within that book record there will be a sequence number, author, title, genre, right, price, published date, description, and record. So these values will be appearing, and the record there will be a plus sign, plus record. So here like plus sign below the book, right? So book is a record in itself, and within book there is another record called address. So this will be specified. If you expand this record, book record, then you will have these singular elements, all the elements, and then the address, right? So this another record will be appearing. So this will be a plus record. So if you expand this, then all the attribute would be appearing like in this line. So sequence number 1, and you know 1, and then you know again the sequence number 1 for the book, which book, right? For the first book there will be a sequence number 1, right? We have selected sequence number, I think, over here in the book itself also, right? Book T, there is a sequence number. So again it will be appearing. So then there will be a author name, title, everything, and then the this address, right? So so if you have multiple addresses, then if it is in a vector format, then the multiple address would appear. So this is how we, you know, read the XML data basically. And once we have received the data in the form of record and form of vector, let's say, then we can use, so because it came into the DML native format, right? So we can translate those. Maybe we can use the normalize to you know normalize the data, right? So if we have multiple addresses and we want to generate the single record for a particular address, then we can use the for loop, or maybe sorry, we can use the normalize, let's say, right? We can get the length of the vector, right, particular vector, and then we can generate those many record whatever we want. So that will be depending upon our use case basically. So once we do that, we can put that data into the you know output file, and this DML you can generate, right, from your side. I mean, whatever elements you want finally, or what enrichment you want to create, and you want to drop the fields, you want to create some, if you want to join this flow with another join, and then you want to look up or something. So that things we can do as we do for any other ab initio processing, right? So let's hook up again back to this one. So we have covered everything, right? So from reading the data, from parsing the data, receive the data in the form of native format, and then using the reformat or add in or normalize or other join component or something, like we can process the data. So this is all about reading the data. So once we read the data, we are going to see the writing the XML document basically. Sometimes we need to create the XML documents and then submit to the third party or submit to the downstream processing, you know, to push the data, right, so that they can use the data into their system. So this is all about. Okay, so with that, thank you so much. Please subscribe my channel, and we are in the next video we are going to see how to create those documents and and multiple other things. Thank you so much.